Welcome to Articulate This, the podcast where we explore the minds behind innovation. Today we're diving into the journey of Dallas Fontaine, co-founder of Scale Labs. Dallas is a trailblazer in the tech industry, and in this episode, we uncover the valuable lessons he's learned throughout his career. Discover how Dallas Fontaine emphasizes the importance of understanding customer behaviors and building products that truly address real pain points. Learn about Scale Labs and how they're dedicated to helping entrepreneurs find that elusive product market fit and build sustainable revenue. Join us as we discuss the qualities that define successful entrepreneurs: hunger to learn, the willingness to fail, and a strong sense of humility. Dallas shares his personal insights on work-life balance, mentorship, and the power of relationships in a personal and professional growth. Don't miss this opportunity to gain valuable insights from a seasoned entrepreneur who's been through it all. Articulate This, where brilliant minds meet. Subscribe now and never miss an episode. Let's get into it. Hey Dallas, how's it going?
Hey Pat, it's going well. Thanks for having me.
Tell me, how did you get started in the tech industry? And is there any moment or experience that kind of ignited your part to get into entrepreneurship?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's funny. I remember being 13 years old and sitting at a Red Robin's. I don't know if everyone's been to that restaurant, but you were able to get free fries. And I just couldn't comprehend why other places. And I was like, you know what? I want to own a Red Robin's one day. And so that was the first time I remember specifically wanting to own a business. And ever from there, I was just evaluating different businesses, why and why not. So that was kind of the first part. Obviously I didn't end up in restaurants, but that was the first entrepreneurial spark when I was really young. And then from there, it was just I kind of looked at what was scalable. I started to get more, mature in my thinking, and it's hey, what's scalable? What can I have a really big impact with? And that was kind of what drew me to tech, I think, initially, and starting a software company.
That's awesome. So before diving into your current ventures, can you describe your journey leading up to co-founding?
Yeah.
Scale Labs?
Yeah, no, all good. So went, my whole thing coming out of school is I wanted to get a skill. So I went to business school out west in Vancouver here. And I was I want to get a skill. So I tried accounting for 6 months. And was I was terrible. It was terrible. And so I went into sales, went for a Fortune 500 company, started in sales for a little bit and just learned how do I sell. And I thought that was something really important that every business needs. From there, I started a company called The Perk. So I went from Cintas, which was a rep, to a sales manager, founded The Perk in 2018. Some highlights from there is we scaled from 0 to 50K MRR in 5 months, and then we lost all our revenue and had to lay everyone off. I get more into that in 1 week because of COVID. Was able to pivot the company and redo the product, and we actually sold in 2021. So kind of a wild time, and because of The Perk is why I started Scale Labs, trying to help myself in 2018. Is why I co-founded this company today.
That's actually a good segue, because I was going to ask you, what were your learnings from The Perk, being able to successfully sell it off? Can you highlight any specific lessons you learned from that experience?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing, and I always like to tell people this story, is so I raised a bunch of money on a pitch deck. I'm okay, what do I need to do here? And so I basically take $500,000 and spent it on tech. So I finally build this product. It's 9 to 10 months later, a year, finally get out the door. I've got this beta list, and I'm hey guys, here's my product. And it's just crickets. Nothing happens. I'm wait, what? You said you all wanted this. This is what you told me you wanted. And it's no, we actually don't want to pay for it. We don't want this. It was my first real taste of wait a second, what people tell you they want and what they actually want, that's the true thing of being an entrepreneur, is how do you find what the market actually wants and not what they say. So it completely went flat my first beta launch, and we had to basically spend another 3 months rebuilding to actually what people actually wanted. I think that was the first one. The second one I think I learned is, and maybe this is kind of just more of a general thing, but half of entrepreneurship is standing in the batter's box. I always relate it to sports, and just sitting there and taking a lot of waiting for the ball to be right in the strike zone, and you're just going to take a ton of like balls and like you're just going to sit there and get hit and hit and hit, and being able to sit there, and it's just wave after wave of problems. And so it's just like you expect those problems, and it's not as bad if you expect everything to go great. It's just kind of it's just not how it goes. So I think those are the kind of two major things was, you know, actually building something people wanted and just like hanging on for the ride.
Let's talk a little bit more about your sales experience, because you've been very successful in the sales part of it. What like stands out as a success story or strategy that helps you execute on the sales side?
Yeah, I think the biggest strategy that I've learned is top of funnel is king. It has kind of three reasons why. The biggest reason why top of funnel is king is it gives you a lot of confidence in the bottom end of your sales cycle. So when you have lots of leads coming in the top, if you get to a guy, you kind of have this like attitude of like, dude, if you take the deal, it doesn't matter because I have three other guys ready to sign. And that confidence, people can feel that. But if it's your only deal in the pipe, you have no negotiating power. You're like, please sign. I got to hit my quota. And so I was always really, really about like just have lots of top of funnel, because if you have lots of top of funnel, the confidence just like extends all the way through. And every time I would look, if my numbers were down or any time in sales, like I wasn't having a good quarter, it was always because my top of funnel activity had faltered. And the trick, the catch is once it's like managing that funnel. So like to be successful in sales, if you have a great top of funnel, you're just going to sell deals. You're just going to fall into deals. And so that was always my strategy to keep everything going.
Were you ever involved kind of in how the leads were generated or how determining the quality of the leads?
Yeah. So at my first sales job, we did all our own prospecting. A lot of that prospecting was like door to door and business to business. So I wasn't hitting people's homes, but a lot of times you would knock up on a door. We called it on-siting. You'd show up, you'd knock in and be like, hey, is the owner in? And no, it's like in the back. You'd end up walking to a back of a restaurant and like trying to close them right there. Like, hey, do you got 10 minutes, 5 minutes? I just want to show you how I can, back then it was like uniforms and chef coats and that kind of stuff. How I can transform your business or whatever our pitch was. It's been a lot. But so I generated all my own leads. I think I would have like one inbound lead a month. So I really got good at like, how do I go out? How do I cold call? How do I prospect? So I did it, it was door to door, email, and cold calling were kind of my three avenues to generate leads. And so I did a lot of that, and you had a territory that you would work. So really got good at how do I generate leads in, and then how do I run them through a process and close them.
That's amazing. I think that's a kind of a lost skill. And the reason why I asked about the leads, I find today there's kind of, depending on how an organization is set up, you'll have kind of an internal battle between marketing qualified leads versus sales qualified leads. And then that's an interesting tug of war. But let's expand a little bit more on entrepreneurship. There's many setbacks in entrepreneurship. Is there any sort of challenging moment in your journey or strategies or mindsets that helped you overcome it?
Yeah, I think again, I'll tell you a story. So it's March 2020. It's like first week, COVID hasn't hit. It's kind of a thing in Italy. I think we all remember this time.
Yeah.
Just closed. It hit 50,000 MRR. It was like, wow, it was kind of that point, like we could get there. We could re-raise. And so we had just hit that revenue milestone, and we might have had like, I don't know, 4 or 5 months of runway. And this is a typical startup story. Like you hear them all the time, like got so close, raised the money. And so I was ready to go raise money, but then we hadn't onboarded them. Like they signed the agreement, and then, onboard, it's a big company. So onboarding takes a little bit of time. And then the next week COVID happens, and they call me and they're like, look, we're laying people off. We've been told to cut / expenses. And that's the way COVID was. You were there on one side of it, like you were Zoom. It's like, hey, we now need Zoom for everybody. Or you were on the other side and you basically just got cut. And so we cut everyone, which means I now had only 4 months of runway, and I'd lost basically all my revenue. And so I wasn't going to be able to raise a round. It just like, so I basically was quick. And probably the biggest thing I did is when I realized it was coming, I just went straight for it, and we went from 10 to me and one developer. Like we just went straight to bare bones, because I knew I needed to have enough runway to like get through whatever these times were. So what happened was I basically, like, first thing I learned was like, when you realize it's coming, cut quick. Like when you just like, the longer you wait, the longer you basically screw your runway. And then what I really got into there is I really got into, how do I develop a product that people actually want to buy? The Mum Test, Deploying Empathy, just a couple books that I read that were really pivotable. And I actually pivoted the company from more of like a perk and HR rewards to a sales commission. So basically, you could pay third-party sales reps commissions on one card. And there was just a bigger pain point around that. And so we pivoted into that and we were able to start growing the company again. It took some time, change the product a little bit, and then we were able to sell that a year later. So honestly, that first thing I learned is like, as much as it sucks, you just got to do those hard things. And then sometimes it just, there's no other way. Like, you just got to hang in there. Like, I was thinking like mindset. I was like, I don't know if I had any mindset. I was pretty devastated, firing everybody. It's like, I didn't want to do it. And I just had to like hold in there until things got better. So sometimes just surviving is half the game. I know it's not like great advice or like, oh, I'll do this, but just, I don't know, figuring out how to stay in the game.
No, I think, you said it perfectly when you talk about sense of urgency. I think some people don't act fast enough. You've seen it countless times for companies that don't change or pivot fast enough, and then ultimately they fall behind. So I think that's great advice. Just having that sense of urgency, being aware that are you ready for that rainy day?
Yeah. When you see the writing on the wall, just go quick.
So let's dive into Scale Labs now. Can you elaborate on kind of the services, the strategies that the company provides, and how do you help entrepreneurs find that product market fit and build revenue?
Yeah, I think one of the things that I realized after I kind of looked back on my journey is like, no one actually wants software, and like no one wants code. Like, I know that sounds like complete, like, wait, this guy runs it. He's in software, says no. It's like, people actually don't want software. People want what the outcome that software generates. And so we work with like a lot of second time founders that like understand like software is the angle to go somewhere. And so I always say, people, you don't actually want software. Like, you want a product that generates revenue, that has a really, really like consistent MRR or consistent ARR, and that gets like great valuations, 10, 15x revenue, great growth, scalable growth. That's what people actually want. And so the way we approach, and so let me tell you a story, the way we approach our business is we actually help people with that. And we always tell people, if you were to design a dream home for yourself, you wouldn't go out and you wouldn't hire the plumber by yourself, the electrician, the drywaller, the bricklayer, the guy that does the trim. But a lot of people treat software this way. They go out, they have no experience, they hire the developers, they hire the DevOps guys, they hire the product people and the designers. And the problem is they wonder why it doesn't work. And it would be like, it'd be like living in a home and like, wow, the plumbing's coming out in the wrong spot, there's no soundproofing, and you just wonder why. So it's like, our whole thing is like, if you don't understand this, you wouldn't build a house without an architect. So like, why are you spending the same amount of money to build a software product without an architect? And so what we do, and I'll kind of get into that, but what we do is we actually help people understand, like, we're the architect, we do design, we do product, and we do development, and we're going to build the product that actually generates revenue. So they're like, okay, sounds good from a high level. Tactically, how do you guys do that? The way we break things down is we kind of break things down into like 4 major steps. The first thing that all our founders do is we do a 4-week discovery sprint. People come into our world and they're like, hey, I want to build software. Like, sounds like a great idea, but I've been there. Pat, you've probably been there. You've seen lots of great ideas that flop 24/7. So like, we need to validate that either people want to pay for this or you're building the right thing to solve the pain point. And so we go through this like intensive 4-week where we build out their ICP list if they don't have one. We help them target. We do a value proposition. We evaluate the idea. We help them schedule customer interviews. We give them templates and the tools, how to gather feedback, what feedback's good, and how to like determine what are the next steps. Once we kind of do that 4-week process, okay, we validated the idea. Now let's go do a design month. So we'll design out a whole bunch of wireframes, prototyping, and then we come back to all your customers that you've talked to and further validation. Are they willing to sign up for something? Is this actually solving the pain point? How are people using it? Is this the way they thought they would solve the problem? And after that, we then go into the stage where we start building for customers. And what we do is we actually take that discovery sprint, and our developers are actually doing discovery with you, the client, and with the end user. And so a lot of entrepreneurs will do a lot of good discovery up front, and you've probably seen this, Pat, and then they stop. They just like start building like, oh, I did discovery like 6 months ago. And it's like, yeah, but the things you're adding need to be like, is this still solving the pain point? And so we train our developers actually how to ask the right questions to make sure we're building the right product. So we're very discovery based the whole way. And again, we call it like, we're like an architect. We're not just like coders. We're here as how do we build the right product that actually generates revenue. And so that's kind of our like step-by-step plan and how we do it.
Do you kind of have like a number where you think that they should come to start with? Like, how much should they be prepared to invest for this whole process? What is
Yeah.
it kind of? What does that look like?
Yeah, I love that question. One of the things I struggled with is I got quoted like 400 grand to build software, and like straight up, like it's kind of what it cost. But the way we've done this and we've broken these down, so that discovery sprint, when people come, they're like, "Oh, I don't know what to build." We're like, "It's 5 grand. Let's just go validate that you want to build this." And you know, we worked with a guy the other day. He had this idea he wanted to provide, and he came to the end of it, and he's like, "Dallas, thank you so much. You saved me so much money. I spent 5 grand and I just validated this isn't going to work." And he's like so happy. We're doing another validation sprint. He's got another idea. It's like, I can't wait to do it another one, because he in the past would spend 6 months to 12 months, hire staff, build everything, and then it would flop. And that would cost him 500 grand, right? And all this time and energy. And so the first step, 5 grand. And you can just do that, take it or leave it. The next step, again, month by month, it's 18 grand and we build everything for you, and you can stop right there. So we tell people, like, you can have pre-signups, a product like wireframe frames for like 25K. And then from there, then we're often around 30 grand a month, because you get developers and designers, and like we actually build the product. But we're like, we give you a ripcord where you can pull the chute after 25K, like there's no validation for this. Let me go back. Let me think of something else. Let's revalidate before I actually invest all that money.
That's amazing, because I love the whole premise around Scale Labs to begin with, because I do find the biggest challenge is how to scale. And like you said, things do change as you start validating. So having that ability to be forward thinking, removing technical debt that may be accumulated, I think that's a popular method that people are short sighted. They try to get to production. They take those shortcuts, and then it becomes successful. They want to scale, and then they can't because of all the shortcuts they took. So I love that you guys have that forward thinking part of it. So are there any sort of key principles or methodologies that you believe are essential for entrepreneurs when it comes to building a successful product? You kind of mentioned iterating and taking searching that way, but is there anything else that kind of comes to mind?
The biggest one, and I would say, and I have a story here, I was doing discovery for one of our clients called the Be Sure boot, and this was last year. And what happened is they were like, "Hey, it's a boot that can predict horse injury. It goes in the horse's leg and predict injury. Super, super cool product." But I'm doing discovery for it, and I'm asking all these people, tell me how you buy your current horse products. Everyone goes, "Oh, I Google stuff. I go online." Right away, I'm like, man, this sounds like, are we doing a little e-commerce play here? Like marketing and all this stuff. But then because I've done this a lot, I asked this next question. Walk me through how the last horse product you bought. All of a sudden, all the answers go, well, I chatted with my vet, or I chatted with my really good friend, and then I asked because I had this problem, and it's like, whoa, wait a second. So you tell me you Google stuff, but in reality, everything you get comes from your vet. And so what happened was it changed the total go-to-market, where we're now going straight to the vets, and the vets are the one that are letting us in the relationship, because that's actually how they buy. And what I find is a lot of entrepreneurs will be like, yeah, I did discovery, I talked to a bunch of customers. And it's like, no, don't look for what they say, look for their behaviors. And because we can lie to ourselves, like we want to believe we Google stuff before we do it. We want to believe we always get 3 quotes, but the reality is we don't. We have these behaviors that we do. And so you really need to ask the behaviors or find out the behaviors. And when you can find that out, that's how you build a product people actually want, because you tie into those behaviors. So it's kind of the one thing I find is like that second thing you got to really understand is like, what are the behaviors that my market has? And not so much just like, what do they tell me?
You mentioned assessing the startup ecosystem. Can you identify one emerging trend or opportunity in the tech landscape that you find intriguing or promising for aspiring entrepreneurs?
Yeah, I think there's a huge opportunity right now. Doesn't matter how you slice it. Basically, the baby boomers have gotten to a certain stage, and they're all retired businesses. And so, look, I'm not saying you can go start a snowplow business, but they're there. But there's lots of opportunity to take those businesses. Either the two ways I would do it is kind of, I would either go work for one of them and be like, right off the top, be like, I want to take this business over when you're ready to go, or I would start buying them There's many ways to do that. Look online. There's thousands of ways to bend or take back the whole deal.
Yeah.
Or I would build a service where I could like work with them and make their lives easier. And we're kind of doing that a little bit at Scale Labs. One of our people we work a lot with is current business owners trying to build software. So that'd be kind of the big is how do you look at all these businesses transitioning and how do you get, there's just going to be so much wealth and there's no buyers. Like it's under $10 million is the business you're looking for. Mom and pop shop, no marketing, that's what you're looking for. And they're all just going to hit the market and going to be clobbered up. So there's tons of opportunity out there.
I've actually heard stories where, like you mentioned, the baby boomers, they don't even know what to do with their business, so they just close it and they leave. They don't even sell it. Like
100%.
They have a market and they're not even taking advantage of it. So that is very true. I've also started seeing some venture funds pop up trying to accumulate and go in, if it's electrical companies or whatever those are, like you said, plumbing, electrical, that they're trying to consolidate to have that market share. So I've seen that trend as well.
Yeah, no, it's a huge opportunity. It's just aligning kind of all the things that you want to do. But there's, like you said, like we're not talking bad businesses. Like they'll be doing like, I've seen some of these companies like, oh yeah, we did 700 grand last year in profit. It's like, what? Yeah, we have no market. And because it's like, it's a snowplow company, right? And it's hard work and, but like you can hire with that kind of money, you can hire someone to run it. So like, there's a lot of opportunity out there. Just, start going to the right circles and, the opportunities all over the place.
Totally agree. Do you have any specific success stories from Scale Labs? I know you kind of mentioned the one about the horse technology. Was there anything else that comes to mind that you've impacted a startup journey?
Yeah, there's a couple. Another one of the things that came out from this as well. So further on, we're building the software for this company, and there's a hardware integration. And one of the biggest problems that came up like early on was there just like wasn't a way to see how many sensors were on the leg. And we were actually the ones as the software company being like, look, we don't think the contact zones on this leg are going to work really, really well. And they actually went in and found they weren't connecting at all. And so just really thinking through the product and the pain points, like, look, if we're trying to figure out the horse, the temperature's leg, what is it here and how can we actually help? Kind of in another area as well, we helped another company. They wanted to build like a kind of like a whole product around a card and a fintech product. And we were just able to help them think through like what's the actual problem we're solving here. And they wanted to build this huge product. And when they got down to it, we were able to build like this little slice that actually was super profitable. And I know that's, kind of high level, but that's really kind of what we do. The other kind of amazing thing that we help is kind of our pricing model. A lot of agencies are like, hey, sign up for a year, and we're month to month, and we don't, you pull the ripcord at any time. And what we don't penalize for is scope changes. That's the other big thing. It's like, how do you help a startup's journey? It's like, there's no scope changes. Like we all know, if you've been to startups like you have been, Pat, you get it. It's like all of a sudden, like, well, we need to start doing this. And it's like most agencies, like, whoa, scope change. 3 weeks later go by. You haven't changed, and you need to now re-up. Oh, it's another 75 grand. It's another 75. It's another 75 grand. And because I was a founder, I hated that so much. I got through scope changes. Ours is like, it's a monthly fee, and whatever you want to like go, we will do. And it's like, we need to pivot the whole business. That's what needs to happen. And so I think that's one of the huge areas that we actually bring success is there's no scope changes, none of that. Like, it's like, oh, we need to change. We change. Like, we need to change with the business. You probably could tell lots of stories, Pat, about business changing. And it's like, I don't know how much you've been in that scope change, but it happens all the time. And so that's really one of our big things that we bring is it's just like, we're your partner and we just keep rolling with you. Almost like you have an internal team, really.
Amazing. Collaboration and mentorship are often crucial for entrepreneurs. Are there any specific individuals or experiences that have played a significant role in your entrepreneur development?
Yeah, I got some really good advice from a guy. So I carry like a board of people. I know that sounds like it sounds more professional than it is. And it's not like we have this big board meeting or anything. I just have about 5 guys that are probably all 50 plus, that I talk to at least once a month, some more. And I just will just all individually. They're not like, there's no like, let's come sit down and have this big thing, but I just have them in my life. We go out for lunch and I just, relationships, business, all that kind of stuff. Like, how do I navigate these raising children? And it's just like, they've all been entrepreneurs. Most of them have sold the company, or in a successful company now. And it's just like having that, like, I just find like talking to your elders, there's just so much value in it. So they're like unofficial. I might call them my board of advisors. There's no title, there's no equity. It's just like people that I've built relationships with. And, what I would tell people, if you're younger, there's a lot of guys in their 50s, their kids are gone, they've got a ton of time, and they just want to give back. And if you're a hungry younger guy that's like, hey, I really want to do something, it's amazing. Like, they're just sitting out there and people don't reach out. Like, like, go up into that when their kids are out the 50, 60 range, they just want to mentor. Like, and they have like the connections they have, unbelievable. So I would encourage people, like, go up and kind of get advice from older people. It's incredible.
That's extremely important. I like to consider myself an organizational anthropologist because I'm so fascinated with learning from people in the past and trying to plan for the future. So, things may be totally different in the sense of what you're trying to solve, but there's some experience, there's some lesson, there's something there that is extremely valuable. So doing that,
yeah, well said.
mentorship is extremely important. And it doesn't hurt to hear what the perspective is, because understanding context of the time is extremely important, and it may be worth to help you solve a future potential issue.
Yeah, totally. Like, sometimes that maybe it's not in technology, but a lot of the business practices are still the same. Like, look, I get there's some nuance, and they might not be able to tell you how to generate leads specifically for your business, but like, hey, I need to do this. I need to do it. It's a lot of that, like, higher level strategy, or I'm having problems with my co-founder. I'm having problems here. What do I do? It's like, they've been through those lessons. And so I just find it super.
It goes back to your original idea when you talk about, it's about market fit. What are you solving for? It's not the software that you're delivering. Yes, you're delivering software, but having that sounding board to really get to the heart of the matter is important. So that's extremely valuable.
Yeah, no, well said. Yeah.
So I saw that on LinkedIn you wrote about you wasted $1 million building your last startup. It was a very intriguing post. Can you walk us through like the lessons that you learned from it? The technical mistakes, anything that you could share about that post? 'Cause I thought it was very, very interesting.
Yeah, and it's the truth. Like, it was quite the ride. Often what I tell people now is like, look, you got to do two things. Whenever you hire an agency, CTO, whatever it is, and if you're a non-technical founder, you're like, look, Dallas, how do I do this? Forget about trying to evaluate people in tech. You don't know, and it's going to take you a long time before. And if you think you know, you don't. That's my biggest thing. You need to evaluate your technical folks on how well do they understand the business, because that's what they're doing. Ultimately, in a software company, they're your manufacturing floor. They're building. What's the widget that you're building? Like, it doesn't really manufacturing software. We're all building something then to sell to somebody to solve a problem. And what I tell is, forget how technical they are. If they worked at Google, like, a lot of software, unless you're building something crazy, isn't that hard to build. Okay, it's really not that hard, but you can screw it up big time. Okay, so you can screw it up, and I'm always about what do they understand about the business? How is your code or your revenue or your software, your product really going to drive revenue? And you want your CTO thinking those questions, or the agency that you're working with, or a product development partner like ourselves. Who cares about the code and what language it's built in? Yes, there are problems that can come up. I'm not saying it doesn't, but the more important thing is, it doesn't matter if it's built like in whatever, it can still be, does it solve the pain point? And so your CTO should be focused more on that. And when you interview for it, if you're trying to hire a technical co-founder, look for the people that understand the business the best and ask them business questions. Don't even bother with the tech questions. If they've been in it for 10 years, they probably can code and other people have validated. Have they been promoted 3 times? Well, someone realizes they got some technical skill. It's like, how are they going to come in and affect the business side and actually do that? Where there's just so many software companies where the CTO is just like, hey, I'm here to build product and that's it. And like the revenue team handles everything else. And it just can't be that way, especially at the beginning.
Interesting you mentioned that example, because I think even Elon Musk, he talks about when he was in university, he took business courses for that very reason. He knew how to code, he knew what he wanted to do, but he realized long term, if he wanted to have more control of his destiny, he needed to understand the business or the value of the business that he does. So he took business courses so he could actually have those discussions. So very good advice and very good points.
Yeah, no, he's completely right. That's all you need to worry about. Like the code will work itself out. You can get third parties to validate. Like you can hire, hey, can you just interview this guy? That's another thing I did. Just go find a third party and be like, hey, I'll pay you $150 for an interview. Can you just see if this guy's he knows what he's talking about? But yeah. So anyway, but yeah, it's all about how do they drive revenue. I agree. It's a great point.
Let's have some fun now and go for more personal insights and work-life balance. You mentioned you like snowmobiling, water skiing, and, your family time. How do these passions and family values shape your decision-making and leadership style within your entrepreneur endeavors?
That's a great question. I think it's one of those things that, you ask and like, oh my goodness, I don't know. I do a lot of the stuff I do to try to get my mind so concentrated on something else that I can forget. I can forget what I'm doing in business. So snowmobiling or water skiing, they're very intense. They do a lot of backcountry stuff and just requires full focus. And I really like that because it really a business can be all consuming. You think about it all the time and so it's like, how do I get away? So it's very specific. Those two sports, they're very aggressive and they just require all your mental capacity, which I really love. With family time, I find that changes every year. As my kids have aged, I got 8, 5, and 2 now. I have 3 kids. My wife wants one more, so we'll see what happens. Maybe we'll go for 4. I don't know. One of the things we've done, Rachel and I, we've really started doing, we do a weekly check-in. And so every Sunday night we sit down, they're like 10, 15 minutes, and we just go through the pillars of a relationship like you would with a business. So I do a weekly check-in with my business partner. How's sales, how's marketing, how's operations, what's going well, what's not, action items. We do the same thing in our marriage. So it's like, what's going well, what's not going well, like what's going well with the kids, what's not going well, how's our schedule next week, are you out, am I out? And we kind of get that all out in the beginning. Honestly, takes where are our finances at, have we spent too much money here, are we saving for this, what do we want? So we go through that, and it's just that weekly check-in has been that's been a game changer, and it really helps the communication. And then if you're out late one night, it's never it's always expected. I just find it's reduced a lot of those, like, why aren't you home tonight, or what about this, or because you kind of communicate ahead of time, and then you can have that discussion when it's not in the moment. So yeah, that's been a huge for the work-life balance. And sometimes it's a lot of work, sometimes it's a lot of, it's never perfect, but that check-in's been something huge, to be honest.
Have you developed any personal routines to help you balance between work and family?
Yeah, I guess the personal routine is I try to get up in the morning, like whenever I do my meditation in the morning. So I get up and go for a walk and meditate, and then I will come back, kind of get through work, and then I normally try to end around like that 5:36-ish range, spend time with my kids, and then whatever happens after they go to bed. And then I just try to stay at I go out one night a week for business. So you just go out every night, and like you just got to be home with your family, but you got to go out and build a network. And so I do that one night a week. Normally it's on Thursdays, and I'll either it's a meeting or someone I want to meet or network or whatever. And so I don't know. And then we do one thing we call Sabbath as well. So I try to turn my phone off on it seems to be Saturdays, and just like spend time with my family, not on my phone, nothing. And so try to pick one day. I find Sabbath really, really helps, where it's like you're off your phone, totally disconnected. So that's been super big, because then you're not just sitting there with your kids scrolling, whatever it is. So that's helped as well.
That's amazing. Yeah, the challenge of always being present is a real challenge. So that's amazing you do that. So someone who's navigated the startup world successfully, what are the top 3 skills, qualities you believe aspiring entrepreneurs should cultivate to thrive in this competitive landscape?
I would say one, like hunger to learn. It's like the biggest one. Like you just gotta, like, you're not gonna have it all figured out as an entrepreneur. It's always about figuring it out. I'd say that's the first one. I'd say the second one is like the willingness to fail, get beat up, and like go again. Like just so many people are just like with fear, they just like, they just like fall apart. And I've just started to know more and more. Fear is where the opportunity lies. So when it's like, wow, that's where it is. Like, keep going, push into the fear, push into the fear, push into the fear. Because that's probably where the big opportunity lies. Other people are afraid to do it. And then obviously like a sense of humility, like willing to change. You don't know it all. So yeah, I would say those are kind of the 3 biggest things: a hunger to learn, like the willingness or like drive that open to being in fearful situations, and a sense of humility.
Your involvement with Trinity Western University and your championship run in hockey are unique aspects of your life. Can you share these how these experiences have contributed to your personal and professional growth?
Yeah, I think it's been a long time now, but I just think hockey. I grew up playing hockey, and so it's just high level hockey. It's you got to hit targets. You win, you lose. You're on good teams, win. You're on bad teams as a kid. Like I've experienced it all. Bad coaches that would yell and throw stuff, and great coaches. And so you get to see a wide variety of leadership skills. But you also get to see like, hey, sometimes we got to dig down deep. And what do you like when what do you like when the rubber hits the road and it's a big game? And you just get all that kind of stuff. There's just so much good in team sports. There's some bad stuff as well. It's not all good. But there's some really good stuff. So I just think that was kind of that early desire to want to win, I guess.
Could you offer a piece of wisdom or a memorable piece of advice for aspiring entrepreneurs who are on the cusp of launching their own ventures?
Yeah, so I got two things here. One of the biggest learnings I ever found is there's three types of games you need to play, and don't mix your games: early game, mid stage games, and late stage games. The reason why I say this is because a lot of the stuff you're going to see online is for different stages. You can't follow billionaires' advice. They're ultra late stage game. They've got all the money, all the resources, all the best talent. You need to, if you're starting a business, it's all early stage, and early stage games is unscalable. Over commitment on quality. Like you're doing stuff that it's all like, hey, I might have to do cold calls. I might have to do this. Yeah, I'm going to deliver on everything. Yeah, that's early stage game. So you need to realize what stage of the game you're in and play appropriately. Like they're always like, hire the best talent. You can't afford the best talent in the early stage. Do not hire the best talent. You cannot afford them. Like when you try to play outside your game, like there's a lot of good strategies out there, but it's like, is this strategy the right strategy for my business at this time? And that is the hardest thing when you first start. There's all these things you hear people doing, like hire this, do that. And it's like, you do that, but your business isn't ready for them. And there's so many times that happens. I think the other thing I would say that I've also learned is saying no. Staying focused is like the hardest part of an entrepreneur. You're going to get all these like, there's quick win here. I'll just do this. It's like you literally have to plan it out and just showing up every single day and doing boring things consistently. That's what I've learned. It's like the boring things that make you successful, not like the big M&A deal or the big raise. It's like, oh, I just showed up every day and I did 100 and, in our business now, we do 1,000 cold emails a day. So it's like, you want to drive real revenue, it's just going to be boring and you just got to do it. So those are kind of the two things. Play the game that you're in, realize where you're at, and then just like get there and be consistent.
Yeah, consistency is a big one. That's very important. It's having the discipline to keep doing those boring things.
Yeah.
So Dallas, I can't thank you enough for joining today.
Oh, thanks, Pat.
But before we go, if people want to learn more about you, the company, Scale Labs, where can they find you? How do they connect with you?
Yeah, so it's just Dallas Fontaine on LinkedIn, Fontaine Dallas on Twitter. Pretty easy. And then just scalelabs.dev. So obviously everything will probably be in the comments, the show notes, but I answer all my DMs, which is pretty rare. So feel free to DM me on Twitter or LinkedIn. I will answer. Doesn't mean I'm going to buy, but I will answer. So if you want to have a conversation about anything, and I'm always open to conversations, again, feel free to hit me up. Always happy to chat.
Well, that's amazing. Thanks again and take care.
Okay. Thanks, Pat.